Okay, time for one of the most famous episodes ever. Ship in a Bottle. This is one of the episodes where I personally feel that adapting this into a TTRPG would require the most extensive reworking of the concept. And personally, due to just how extensive the reworking would need to be, I wouldn't try to copy this story at all. Okay, so what are the problems? Well, the core issue is actually very simple. There's three main characters on the hero side, and everyone else in the cast is at best secondary, and most of them barely show up in the episode, which has additional issues with it because half of the times when you see the secondary characters in this one, they're holographic fakes created by Moriarty. Yeah, the whole Moriarty attempting to outsmart people includes Picard and Data getting trapped in the holodeck because Moriarty rewrote it to do things it wouldn't normally do. And one of the things that Moriarty wrote was a simulation of the Enterprise D and the crew of the Enterprise D, which now that is something that is kind of neat because the fact that they do several things with that where if you're paying attention, you'll notice something's up. Would you guess that Picard and Data are still trapped in a hologram? Maybe not. But it'll feel off, shall we say. Like, this character was wearing this uniform. Why is she wearing this uniform instead? That kind of thing. Anyway, this creates a problem though because of the fact that you can't really have players playing the holographic versions of characters unless the holographic versions of characters are going to be trying to beat the bad guy, which in this case, in the episode as aired, that was Moriarty. And again, you could come up with your own holographic bad guy to do something similar. Realistically, um, the utilization of Moriarty in this is actually something that raises a lot of questions about holodeck technology in Star Trek because the fact that Moriarty's creation was a complete accident. Um, Data liked trying to solve mysteries, and Geordi wanted to create a mystery that would genuinely be a challenge for Data to solve, and was screwing around with the way that the computer was compiling holodeck programs with randomized elements and an AI in the thing that would attempt to outthink Data and use the computer core on the Enterprise D to process all of its thinking for it. Not something as puny as a human-sized computer. Yeah. How exactly does someone just accidentally create a sentient hologram like that? Anyways, that's a question that you would need to ponder, although not necessarily answer, because it's relevant to any story you do involving sentient holograms in the holodeck. Then again, not all of the holodeck stories involve sentient holograms. And uh, yeah, that gets complicated when you try to make a list of every single thing people did with holodecks. But the Moriarty one was particularly memorable because one of Moriarty's things is that he wanted to take over the Enterprise because he didn't like being stuck in the holodeck, and he wanted to go other places and do other things. And in the end, the crew of the Enterprise give him the opportunity to go places and experience things without actually leaving the holodeck. So Moriarty is at least temporarily happy, even if it's not reality. It's a entertaining world to live in for Moriarty. Um, huh. You know what? I don't remember exactly what Moriarty thought about that. Let's take a quick look at that. See, because like one of the things about made Moriarty such a enduring character was that they actually used it more than once. Granted, you know, only twice in the next generation. The third time was in Star Trek Picard. Do 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 do. Um, hmm. Yes, like so several things here. Okay. This wasn't the real Moriarty that they had here. Okay. So the real Moriarty never actually left the data cube that they stuck him into. The these things talking about in alter ego mention the idea of having evil holograms that are sentient and don't really have a whole lot to say about them. Anyway, though, and this is a vague reference to Moriarty by having someone dress in a similar style, but whatever. Anyway, enough of that. Yeah. So, also, again, holograms, when you only have one, are kind of boring. So this had several of them. And apparently they had interesting challenges choosing exactly the right person to play this character, and what they ended up with worked out quite well. So, what would I do if I was going to try something else? One, the whole like Detrian system thing is fluff. It's completely ancillary to the plot. You could replace it with anything you felt like within reason. And because the only thing that this added to the story was the whole like plot tension where if Moriarty kept them from moving the ship away from the planetary collision, the ship might get destroyed. Yeah, whatever. Realistically, you could have the ship get crashed into a star, crashed into a planet of some size. Mm, this particular event isn't needed to give you the threat of having the ship get destroyed. So whatever. It was an interesting thing for them to put in as a side thing because it added something to watching the episode, but if I was going to do this in a TTRPG, something like this is really more of a distraction from the story than an actual benefit. Having it in the TV show, it was a benefit because it was a distraction from the story, not and thus distracting from the story was actually a positive because it gives you context for what's happening in the main plot and makes the world feel there instead of just talking two people talking in a hologram. You see the world around them outside the holodeck, which if you're doing a TTRPG, you don't have to show people a literal picture of it. You just tell them it's there. Anyway, though, another thing that's interesting here is that um, within the simulation, Moriarty ends up flying a shuttlecraft to the planet Melis 2. Um, we don't actually know if that's real. Yeah, see, because the only time this was mentioned is in the context of Moriarty's um, escape from the Enterprise, and it's entirely possible the crew made this planet up. I mean, this is literally the only time anyone ever mentions it, which doesn't say a whole lot because most of the planets mentioned in Star Trek were mentioned all of once and never seen or heard from again. Like the Detrian system. Yeah, once and only once. This is an interesting thing to bring up because very, very few episodes talk about this. Because, like, this is apparently a mobile device capable of storing a complete holonovel size program. Because this is where they have the entirety of Moriarty's world that he was living in after they tricked him into um, letting go of the ship. And it's an interesting thing because of the fact that its primary purpose is simply storing slash using the holonovel programs. Very useful thing to have if you're going to have a plot that involves acquiring data out of one of them, because you know you could take it from one ship to another using a device like this. Um, if your plot involves finding information inside a holodeck program, this would actually be quite helpful. If the actual plot is something different, well, you know, that's different. Anyways, so what else is there? Like I said, the main problem with this is that it wouldn't work very well to have the players playing NPCs unless those NPCs are actually actively trying to help solve the problem. In the show as written, we do actually have the original living versions of the various characters show up briefly, and for the most part, did fade into the background because they're not in that scene. And that's the most of the episode. Some of them make appearances as holographic versions of themselves, and if you were going to have a holographic version of a main cast as a character in the episode you're writing for your players, you could have a player play a holographic character as a substitute for their main character. A lot of people really wouldn't like that. This would be like one of those like special edition episodes where you do different things because you know, it's telling a story and this is the direction that the story is headed in. You don't really need to make it particularly specific, but you you need to give the player something to do. And as the episode is written, you only actually had three main cast characters that were actually the heroes, like Picard, Data, and Barclay. And Barclay is someone that I would categorize as an NPC controlled by the GM because his role in the story is to be someone that the main cast knows, but who isn't actually a member of the main cast, which makes things a little bit awkward for writing that character and role for a TTRPG because it's like if you're normally playing Riker, you play some random incident instead. Huh? But obviously you could do it, but it would not be normal from the context of just, playing the game like you would other times. Anyway, so yeah, that's about it with this one. Like I said, there's one big issue you need to handle if you're going to try to do this, and that is, of course, giving all of the players something to do when the story isn't actually encompassing all of those characters that they would normally be playing. And I don't like that particular kind of challenge. Giving players stuff to do is hard enough on a regular basis. Adding in the annoyance of having most of their characters not actually be part of the story is a lot worse. But the whole holodeck novel thing, this is one of those like classic things that they did in TNG, and it worked quite well. You just need to figure out how to do a story that works for the characters that your players are using. And I'm not convinced this would be the right one. It might be for you. I wouldn't expect it to be, though. And that's all for now. See you guys later.